You on?
The light was on. I had to go back and shut it off.
Oh,
Yeah.
what about the wax?
There wasn't no wax on. You're not too hot over there?
This morning.
34. Jeez. I got up this morning and it was cold this morning. It was about 62. It's about 84 now. It's 82 in the house.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I leave the heat on in the house.
And I found a drone laying colony today.
Did you?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know. I checked them, I don't know, last Sunday. Didn't seem like everything was looking good. I guess I didn't go through it frame by frame, and now I've got more drones than I got workers.
Well, they might be getting ready to swarm. Is the hive's pretty strong?
It wasn't. I mean, it seemed like it was doing okay coming out of winter, but I wouldn't say it was swarm strength.
Well, you better put a frame of brood from another hive in there in case they need to make a good queen.
Yeah, that's what I did. I gave them a frame from another colony, and I saw that I could see that there was eggs and young larvae in there. So with any luck, they'll make a queen. I couldn't find a queen in there anywhere. So.
Did you give them a frame of mostly capped or mostly open?
I would say it was mostly capped, but I confirmed that there was eggs and young larvae in it.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do, and put it right in the center of the hive.
Yep, that's what I did. I found a couple frames where there was still quite a few workers, and I slammed that one in there, and then I came back maybe 5 minutes later, and that new frame I put in there was completely covered on both sides. So, but there's a lot of drones in there. Leave them be, or what?
They shouldn't be that much right now. What are you running them in? An 8 frame, 10 frame, or a 5?
They're in a 10 frame with 9 frames.
Well, I would, if you're going to put them in 10 frame box, I'd put 10 frames in there. That might be part of your problem. You know, if you're running 9 frames in a 10 frame box, they're going to make an extra piece of comb in there, and you have more of a chance to roll a queen.
Yeah, that one has a division board feeder in it.
Oh, okay. Well, that takes up space in it.
Yeah, there's 9 frames in there.
But now you had enough bees to cover at least 6 frames in there? Right now?
I would say there's to cover 2 frames. And the only brood in there is drone brood. There's no other worker brood besides the frame that I added tonight. And that was on both sides. It had capped brood and then eggs and young larvae.
If you didn't have at least 4 to 5 frames of brooding there, I don't think I would have risked a whole frame of sealed brood just to make a queen. I would have found a frame from another hive, maybe the second or third frame in from the side, that probably had a 6-inch pattern of sealed brood and some larvae in there. That way, because you just said it got down to 32, and if that happens again, anything below 55, they're going to get chill brood, and they're going to start hauling out dead brood.
Right, but whatever dead brood is probably going to be drones.
Well, the frame that you did put in there, now that frame there was all worker cells, right?
Right, and that's. I came back 5 minutes later and pulled that same frame back out again, and they had already covered it.
Oh,
I think there's plenty of workers to cover that one frame.
Well, and even if you have drones in there, the heat from the drones will keep that brood going.
Okay, yeah, there's lots of drones in there.
Yeah.
I went through it frame by frame and didn't see it anymore, so there's not one egg in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened there.
If you get a chance, put the link up to Facebook. My Facebook thing is all messed up again. And I haven't even turned my computer on for 4 or 5 days. Today's first day. So If it's going to stay messed up, I'm not going to mess with it too much. Because I had everybody that was on the list here, I sent an invite out, but I don't know how many would get it.
Do they usually come in through Facebook, or is it from Google Plus? Do you know?
I think it's Google Plus. They added me as a contact, and I guess when I put them on there, they automatically get an invite. There's probably a place where you can look up when I'm on, and if people's been on before, they probably could find me. I guess they could look under Hangouts on events.
Right.
We had 2 large swarms come out of some 5-frame boxes. One of my students from Texas has got 25 hives out in the back, and they are packed jam full.
Oh, really? Wow.
He's supposed to come and got them, but you know he's been tied up, and the bees don't play around. When that warm weather hits, they start coming out of the box.
Yeah, I think we've had 1 or 2 80-degree days, but otherwise it seems like we're a month off again. It seems like we're getting April weather now.
Well, we're starting to get really into summer right now. We had 7-10 days of rain. Now we're getting a dry spell and hot, and they're bringing priveting and clover and the blackberries. They're jamming it full.
Right. Yeah, there's I got 5 colonies that really look great, and then I got 20 nukes that I've been waiting for. The truck broke down in Oklahoma, so the beekeeper I'm buying the nukes from, he doesn't want to sell them because he doesn't get overheated on the truck, so he's got them out to his place and he's letting them fly for a couple days, and then going to check everything for queens.
Yeah. What'd you have to pay for them?
$100 a piece.
For a good 5-frame box? Not bad.
I haven't. I think it's in a either a cardboard or one of those chloroplast nukes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but actually I think they were 110 if I remember right.
You can get bees off the almonds right now, single-story hives. They're going for about 85 to about 125, but you got to buy a truckload at a time.
Yeah, I've seen them on. I've seen those advertised on Bee Source.
You don't know what you're buying now.
Right. But I wonder what's going to ever happen. Are they going to keep pollinating out in California, or are they going to? I wonder what's going to ever happen with all that. Is it going to be a business for a while, I wonder?
Well, the last time I talked to somebody that did go out there, he was from South Dakota there, and he run a couple tractor trailer loads out there 2 years ago, and he lost one out there. It was just so rainy. I don't know. Even the amount of money they paid, to me, it ain't worth it.
Yeah, they probably starve to death out there, don't they?
Well, when it was raining out there, he said he had to pay somebody else out there to feed them and buy the feed, and then some of them just didn't make it. They had to double up the hive, so it wasn't worthwhile to haul them back. He left the equipment and everything there.
Oh, wow.
Hi, Larry.
Good evening, good afternoon, or whatever time it is.
It's close to nightfall.
Yeah. Well, it's daylight here. You know, it's 5 o'clock.
Oh, it's after 8 here.
I had a little trouble finding. Oh, how's the bees doing? Oh, they're out there busy. So.
Good.
Oh, I had a few questions I wanted to ask you tonight. There.
Okay.
One of the things you treat with oxalic acid. Do you pull the honey supers off, or do you treat them with them on?
You can treat them with honey on it, either sealed honey, open brood, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
But you know, I'm doing the vaporizer now. I'm not dribbling. I'm not
Yeah.
for dribbling because dribbling will contaminate honey and it'll also kill open brood.
Okay. Yeah. We're planning tomorrow. We got a party going, and our Beekeepers Association. We have probably, I don't know, 30, 40, or 50 hives in there, and everybody's got their vaporizers, and we're planning to go treat tomorrow.
Well, that's good. Are they running screen bottom boards?
No, I think maybe one might have it, or if maybe they pulled it off, but I think they're getting rid of all the spring bottom boards.
Yeah. Well, some of them still use screen bottom boards. They have to watch because they have an insert they put in there, and that
Right.
thing will catch fire. It's plastic. It starts to melt.
Oh, okay. There was something else I was going to ask you. It'll come to me. You know, old age. You know, I think of all these things during the week. I said, well, I got to ask Don that, and then here I am, blank.
Well, that happens.
I'll be 70 here in a few months, so.
Well, keep those bees and you'll stay young. You'll remember where you keep your hives.
There you go. Today I was busy vermicomposting.
Oh.
So I have a worm farm also. So
That's good.
this is how I got started in the bees. You know, I trying to do some gardening, and ended up I had poor soil, so I had the vermicompost. Then I found out I didn't have any bees, so now I'm raising worms and bees, and I don't have time for the garden.
Well, when you melt your wax down, you get all that old slum gum in the bottom there. That's good for the bees. I mean, put it in your garden.
Oh, okay. Anyway, my neighbors are very happy. They said they have the best gardens they've ever had ever since I've had bees.
Well, you're on the right track. Just convince them not to put any pesticides out.
Oh yeah, they're aware of that.
How do you treat your garden for pests?
Well, I plant enough so they can have some too, and we'll all have some. But it's just I grow things. My biggest pest up here is deer. Trying to keep the deer out.
Well, there's people that use those DVDs or old CDs to put out there on a string and they flash around. That helps. But if you've got some types of pests, you can take that cayenne pepper and just kind of sprinkle it around on stuff. Keep some of the bugs off.
Yeah, well, we use neem oil or just soap and water and some of that stuff, organically.
Yeah, neem oil works good. We've done stuff here with neem oil. It's good for mites. I mean, you can put it on a paper towel and it treats mites fairly good.
Okay. How's everybody else tonight?
I guess everybody's doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing good here in South Dakota. Hey, Don, can you invite Malcolm in?
How do you invite somebody? How do you get them in here?
If you go up to that top menu where your microphone and video camera are.
Oh, okay.
There's the first one is invite people.
Okay, let me see. Get my glasses on here. Okay, I think I got the right one on there.
Yeah, it's Malcolm, Megibbeen.
I got the wrong one. Let me get the next one.
Well, I'm sure glad you're figuring this out, Don, because it's Greek to me.
I haven't figured it out yet. For some reason, it's not sending.
That's,
Let me try again.
will it let you bring up the link?
Yeah, I can get the link. And would I just put it on where it says invite? That don't work
Yeah,
neither.
you click invite and then it should let you pick somebody.
Well, I can't get his name to come up. Once I get to his last name, it won't go any further. It won't do nothing. All right, let me see if that one works.
And then Les Byler wants in too.
Are you finding these on YouTube?
He
The
messaged me on
names,
Google Plus.
they're popping up on my chat. Okay, let me see if I can get another one in here. Did Malcolm get in?
Let's see here. Doesn't look like it.
Sorry about my dogs here. I couldn't find my mute button.
Ah, well, let me send one to. Well, Cody got in. Is it Athena Carey? Is that the one?
No, it's Malcolm and Les.
Well, David made it in. Malcolm still didn't get in? Oh my goodness. Let me see. I sent him 2 invitations. How you
I sent
doing?
him some too.
Hey, Cody here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. We're trying to figure out how to get everybody in here.
Okay.
You got a question? Shoot away. I guess David's having problems with his camera. Schmaglick, David Schmaglick. Hopefully I'll get this thing figured out before I turn 90. Well, Lewis found me. How you doing, Lewis?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, we're doing good.
It's the first time I
You
ever
got
joined
some
something like this, so I'm new at this right now.
Well, I'm new too, so we'll both make mistakes together.
I don't think you will, because I've seen you on the internet before.
Well, I make a lot of mistakes. It ain't nothing edited.
So what are we gonna talk tonight about?
If you have a problem with your bees, let me hear about it. See if we can figure out what's going on. Or if you have any kind of
Well, right now I'm trying to, I'm starting to raise queen bees now.
well, I wish
I'm
you lived
using
closer
the,
by me.
how's that again?
I wish you lived closer by me. I'd put you to work out there. I need somebody who can do a little grafting for me. I'm stuck out in the front yard all the time.
I'm not gonna do the draft method. I'm gonna do the Miller method for a while.
Well, do the cut cell. It's the easiest. Old people like us, we got to take the easy road. So get you a good steak knife and just start cutting cells, and you're not going to build boxes fast enough.
Yeah, I realize that. I've been into bees since 1981.
You've been in almost as long as I have.
Well, just about. We're probably about the same age too then.
Well, we should have all kind of knowledge to share with people now.
I got a couple, a little bit, but not that. I wouldn't say a lot.
Every little bit helps. You probably have a few tricks to teach us too.
Yeah, everything helps. Yes, that is correct.
I see somebody in the background has got some 10-frame hives, and looks like they dipped them in copper naphtha.
I don't use anything on my hives. I use them with latex paint, and if they wear out and don't last for over 4 or 5 years, that's good with me because I'm in it for the hobby and just raising bees. I love raising bees.
Well, I have some hives out there that are at least 28 years old, and I show students that, and when I'm teaching commercial beekeeping, if you can get anywhere from 5 to 7 years out of a box, you got your money out of it. And when I can date a box 28 years, I know that it's old. I see those copper naphtha boxes back there.
This
That
box right here, I think is about 40.
40 years old?
Yeah.
I stopped branding my stuff 28 years ago. That's why I can tell.
Yeah, I've repainted these several times. This one down here is brand new, but
You don't
you
make
take
your
care
own
of them. They last forever.
Young guy like you should be making all your boxes.
I've made a few. I haven't
Well,
been making the Langsworth ones. I do the top bars.
you're into the top bar hives.
I make
I've been
everything for
doing both.
my. Hello, Cody.
Hey, who's this?
Oh, this is Lou. Lou Z.
Hello.
You say your hives. Do you make your own woodenware?
For the Langsworth ones, I've been get the ones that I had already and buying new ones to replace ones that wore out. Because my grandpa had these type. The top bar ones, I've been making all of my own. So.
I don't use top
And
bars.
actually, I was making a bunch of
top
frames
hives
with
all the
these.
time.
I got a frame around here. That I
Now,
made.
Lewis, how many of the cells have you got going right now?
Right now, I think I got about 17.
That's good. How many hives did you pull them out of? Just one?
Well, I'm only using one hive. I'm using a cloak board. In other words, I use the bottom brood box for the queen to lay in. I got the clog board in it. Once the queen, I put a medium frame down in the brood box. I let them draw that out. She'll lay eggs on it. And then I transfer that onto my frames. I use little wooden blocks, and then I put them on the upper part that I made queenless, and I leave them queenless for about a day and a half. Then I let them draw them out and finish them. After I put the frames back up onto the upper brood box, I removed the board in the cloak board, and they can come up through the queen excluder, and the whole hive is a finisher hive.
Well, you don't run 5-frame nuke boxes?
How's that again? 5
You don't
frames? No, I
run
use
5-frame nuke boxes.
the queen cells. I intend to put into mating nukes. And
What I
then
was asking was, when you make your queen cells, why don't you use a 5-frame box? And it's a whole lot simpler to put them in a 5-frame box and keep them crowded, and you'll have 5 frames, and you can just cut the cells out.
I didn't have too much luck on cutting cells out.
Are you using plastic frames?
No, I don't use plastic frames. I use strictly beeswax without wire.
Well, that's why I use the fishing line. If you're putting a line in there with fishing line, you can cut it. We cut out probably 40 cells today putting 5-frame nukes, and we're running a lot of cells in 5-frame boxes. That's the easiest way.
I did try using I made a tool out of a copper brass plumbing coupler. The 3/8 compression fitting. I put that on a piece of 12-gauge wire, and I cut cells out on that already and put them on the top bars.
Well, that's called punching. Self-punching.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I teach that here. I mean, for people that's our age that we can't see, the last video that I put up, just cut a 2-inch strip across, and then lay that vertically with the cells pointing up and down, and spread your frames out about 2 inches. And that strip, you'll have all the cells you could possibly use. And that's
in other words, that's instead of having it horizontal, you have it vertical. Am I correct?
Right. Take your frame, lay it down, and just cut a 2-inch strip right off the bottom. Make sure it's got a lot of eggs and larvae at different ages, and just stand it up between 2 frames. When you stand it up and the cells are pointing up and down vertically, then you're going to have them make queen cells. That's the easiest way to do it.
What is that method called?
It's called easiness, laziness.
They have a name for that, I'm sure.
Well, everybody wants to name something, to make themselves famous, I guess. But I work with a lot of older people that have seeing problems, eye problems, glaucoma, all kinds of stuff. So you work with the person, and someone our age doing that method, 1 box will produce you about 20 cells. And if you got another box, you do the same thing. It takes you less than a minute to take a razor knife and just cut a strip. You can't get any easier.
What's the length of time I can leave that frame out of a hive without the bees on it?
Well, I mean, you could probably do it 5 minutes if it ain't really hot outside. But my bee yard, you can do it. Just let's put a box right next to where you want to graft from. Pull a frame out, shake the bees off, lay it on your lid, cut a strip out, and move it to the next hive down. If it's down 2 to 3 foot, stand it up between 2 frames. That's the easiest way to do it.
I'll try that this week. Thank you.
Sure.
Problem I've been having with making queens is most of my beehives died off last year. I only got 2 left. And, I've just been waiting for them to build up enough bees to do work with them.
Well, how come they're dying off? Are they starving?
These boxes behind me are full of honey. They didn't starve. We think it was the mites. The mites were really bad last year, and usually I treat for them, but I guess powdered sugar and the mineral oil just didn't work.
Well, you know, mineral oil will work. It's a low end type of kill. It's suffocation for the mites. So you have to do it about every 6-7 days. Now you
Yeah,
have
what I was doing is I'd like powder them about once every
powder
3
sugar.
days. For
Powder sugar. You're wasting time. Powder sugar will knock mites off. They're just going to fall down, climb right back up, and all you're doing is encouraging ants to come around your hive.
Okay. Well, anyway, the only beehives that actually survived this last winter were queens that I raised myself. So, in
Well,
fact, just that
that's
2 of
why
them that I
most
raised
people.
myself.
That's why most people are trying to raise their own queens. They have a better queen. The commercial
Definitely
people are
works.
using so much chemical that the hives don't want to survive.
Yeah, like I'm not even gonna order in any queens from California this year. I'm gonna do it all my own if I can.
You can. I mean, you got one hive, you got to start. You know, that's right there is all you need.
Yep.
But
I figure if I can get like 3 or 4 out of them, that'd probably be pretty well. And
what are
then
you
the
running
next
right
year I'll
now?
be able to
10
do a little
frame
more.
stuff?
What?
Do you run a 10 frame hive right now?
Yeah, same thing that I got behind me.
All right. We'll put the sugar to them. Get them to build in a 10 frame hive. You could make 9 to 10 splits off of that right off the first time. Go back in 3 weeks and you could split those and make another, 10 times over.
So you think I should just feed them lots and lots of sugar and split them as many times as possible?
You want to build your numbers, that's the only way you're going to do it. But you're going to have to do something in a way of treating for mites. Because we live in a world where if you don't treat, you're not going to keep bees.
Yep. I was hoping that my stock would kind of, over time as I'm breeding them, would develop a resistance to it, but this last year just hit me a little too hard.
Where do you live?
I'm up in Utah.
Well, you're in an
Northern
area where
Utah.
you have plenty of wild bees.
What was that?
You live in an area where you've got plenty of wild bees. Contact the people like your county agent, pest control people, and tell them you'll pick up swarms or take bees out of houses. That is the best stock right there you can get.
Yeah. That's some noise.
We're getting some good feedback tonight, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm on the swarm call list. I haven't got any swarm calls this year, but I'm
Have
waiting.
you called any pest control people?
What?
Have you called pest control people, people that do exterminating?
Like actually call the people who commercially exterminate things?
Right. Those people will gladly give you
thought
a
of that.
record.
Like I'm in the Wasatch Beekeeping Association, and they got a swarm call club going there, but that's about it.
Some people don't like to go out of their way. You got to basically call all your exterminators, anybody that does pest control. Call them, call your fire department, call the police department, your county sheriff, tell them you'll pick up swarms. And they'll give you calls. They don't want them in around there.
Okay.
It ain't going to
The other
cost
thing
you
I
nothing.
did is
That
I
actually
told
makes
the-
sense, because someone who doesn't know a lot about bees is going to call the fire department if they got a swarm in their yard, aren't they?
Right.
I told the hardware store people too, because that's where they go to get a can of Raid.
That's another good place to go. See, you learned something
I got
tonight.
one swarm call last year. I got there, and the bees were all on the ground dead.
Oh my! I got a swarm call about Tuesday, and it's only 5 miles, 4.5, 5 miles from my house. I called one of my students up and let him go get it. You know why? It takes more time, more energy for me to go get that than I can make the bees out in my yard.
It's probably up 40 feet in a tree, right?
No, it was actually in a building. It was a shed. It wasn't that hard to get out, but I can make bees a whole lot faster than I can go out there. My time is more valuable than anything. You know, when you first start out, you know, you got more time than you have anything else. Right now, I'm making splits here. I try to make 10, 15, or 20 splits every single day because I've got nukes going out and I got to replace them. Plus, I got cells to cut constantly. The time it takes to go, and if you go 2 hours to go pick up a swarm, I could make 10 splits. Once you start getting numbers up there, you'll realize that.
May I may I intervene on this?
Sure.
How many hives do you actually have? I'm just well, like now, all I want is three hives at the most. But you have a lot of hives that you can make all these splits from.
Well, I'm teaching commercial beekeeping. I'm teaching the average person right off the road how to go in and make a living at what they're doing. So we try to run anywhere from 200 to 500 hives here.
Yeah, the only person I know around here, he got 200 hives, and he's just started the last 2 years to pollinate and went into it. Myself, the most hives I ever had was 37. And like we discussed a little bit ago, we're getting old, so I don't have too many more. That 2 of them or 3 of them will just be sufficient for me.
Well, it's a good way to supplement your Social Security. How old are you, Lewis?
I'll be 87 this August.
Well, good. You keep those bees, you'll stay young.
Well, I got an acre of ground, and I'm a groundkeeper, I should say, because I spend a lot of time in my yard and play around with bees. I teach bees to different people, and I got 3 mentors right now or 3 beekeepers that I'm mentoring. They're starting out as new beekeepers just this year.
Well, that's
So
what we
I
need.
keep occupied.
That's what we're trying to do, spread the word, get more people into beekeeping.
Yeah. Like you were saying, I went to different municipal buildings, and I gave them my address and phone number. And I told them if swarms come around, I'll get them, or I'll have somebody get them that, besides myself, that uses them.
It's a lot better to do that than to have the pest control come out and eradicate them.
Well, around here we have one pest control. They call them Cooper Pest Control. They will not do nothing to a honeybee. They refuse to, destroy them.
Right. That's probably one of the few that I've heard of. There's quite a few of them out there. The price is there. They're going to spray them, but they don't tell people if they spray the bees, like if they're in a wall, an outside wall, they're going to spray them. They're going to charge you a good fee for it, but they don't tell you that when it gets hot, that wax starts to melt and honey starts to ooze out the baseboards, and then it's all over the carpet, and then they had a worse problem.
Yeah, years back, I had he was a lawyer, and he lived in a house that was built in, I don't know, early 1700s. And they had bees in the brick wall in the attic. They got up there, and there was honey coming through to the ceiling. He wanted to know what to do with them. And I told him, you're going to have a big job taking them out. he also had a swarm in one of them hives that's on top of a pole, you know, for the swallows to or for swallows to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he wanted to know if I could get them out of there. I told him just leave them alone because you could, no way in heck you could get them. As
Well, you
far
can
as
always,
how's
you can
that?
always get everything.
Ah, okay.
If there's a will, there's a way.
Well,
Depends how bad you want them bees.
I have a couple neighbors in the back of my yard, and they do the cutouts. If somebody calls up about bees and they're in a wall, or they'll get them. They'll do the cutouts, and they do it. They won't leave no odor or anything. They clean them out and really do good.
That's hard to find people that will actually do that anymore. Most people
Yeah.
tear the wall down, get the bees, and that's it. They're gone.
Well, them people, they don't even want to see one bee die. I mean, they are naturists, and they went into the bee hives, and they got 8 hives right now. They'll take them out of the wall. They'll stay there all day today, and if it takes them the next day to get them out, they'll come back the next day to do it. Oh, well, talking about walls and that, I don't know whether you heard of it, but Vicks. If you rub Vicks on the area where they were, they won't come back to it.
Well, when I've done cutouts in the past, what I usually do is I go in there and I scrape the walls down, get all the wax out, and I usually put a couple handful of mothballs in, and that gives off that naphtha gas, and that'll kind of keep them out.
Yes. I never tried that. I always used the Vicks.
Well, I've done the Vicks in the camphor. I've done that on my hands, working hives that are real hot. I mean, that'll keep them off your hands.
Bees don't seem to, I don't know, half the time I don't even put a veil on, and the bees don't disturb me.
Well, I mean, that's what, they can recognize fear.
Yeah, I know that too. But I go into a hive or with bees, I do what I want to do. I let the bees do what they want to do, and we both get along good then.
That's what you have to do.
Yes,
Hey, so what kind of success have you had with the municipalities? I mean, do you get some calls with them, or very few?
What are
How's
you
that
talking
again?
about? Getting swarms from municipality?
Yeah, as far as them calling, because I've called a few in this area, and I mean, I kind of success can expect from them.
You never know. I mean, the person who's answering the call has a lot to do with it. If they think it's, you're just some kind of a jerk, they'll just pass it off or just take the information and just drop it in the garbage. You have to find somebody who basically has an interest in saving bees and is interested in helping you too. But pest control people is one of the best places to go.
I got a swarm from a guy that he had just received a citation from the city, and so I went down to the city hall and talked to some people there and told them, said, hey, next time that you give some warning, you may give them my business card as well, and maybe that would work. I don't know.
Where do you live? Where do you live, Scott?
I live in Lubbock, Texas.
Well, they have bees out there that's protected. I got students that's out there. In fact, in Texas, if you got 6 hives, you get a write-off on your taxes.
Well, I'm at 3, so maybe I need to make a few splits.
Check into it. I got 3 students out there, and actually one of them's selling my bees out there because you can work them in shorts, and the bees out there throughout Texas, they got a lot of Africanized bees in them.
Yeah, we're kind of on the south end of the panhandle. So far, I haven't run into any, but that's not saying. I mean, I know that they're out here.
Well, there's bees down in Brownsville that are pretty hot because I ship queens to a fella that does a lot of removals in Brownsville.
Okay.
Get on that swarm call list they have. It's the wildlife rescue group out there. Get on that there, and they give you references.
Okay. Yeah. So far, I've done 2 cutouts, and the second cutout that I did had 3. I had 3 nukes out of it, and I didn't get the queen, but there was enough eggs that they've since made a queen.
Well, you probably need to re-queen them, even if you got a queen, because from what I'm hearing, there's not good blood out there, not good genetics.
Okay.
You're going to have to bring a more gentle bee in there. If you
so far they don't seem to be too bad. I mean, I can work them pretty easily, and they're not real aggressive.
Somebody might have imported some good bees there, and they got away from a beekeeper. They just swarmed out of his hive.
Yeah, I know. Kind of up in that area, they do use quite a few. I guess there's a commercial guy in this area. I don't know who he is, but I know they use a lot for the sunflower crops.
Maybe it's Greg Stallman. He runs a lot of bees down in Texas there.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of him before.
How far are you from the orange groves, the citrus place?
Oh, we're way far north.
Too far north?
That's going to be down kind of in South Texas. We're the panhandle of Texas. We're right on the south end of where that's at.
Oh, okay.
So we get temperatures down that are we'll get below 0 from during some of the nights.
How many hives you running now?
I have 3 right now, and I'm looking to get some more.
Yeah, you need to split them and get some numbers up.
Sure. Yeah, after I got one of those hives, I looked in there. That was about a week after I brought it back and looking for the queen and didn't find it. I had 8 queen cells.
Did you cut cells?
They've since hatched out.
Splits?
I got 3. I got 3 queens out of that one, or out of those 8.
Well, that's
I
good.
put 2 in each hive.
Why do you
probably should have?
Why do you put 2 cells in one hive?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I had success because I've never done it before.
Well, sometimes when you put 2 cells in there, the queens are going to fight, and sometimes they sting each other at the same time, and then you've lost. You're much better off with 1 cell, and if they don't make it, you can add a cell later.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually something I was wondering about, is whether you should put 2 queen cells in just to be sure.
Well, I have
So
eggs
you
in all of
recommend just
mine,
putting 1 cell in?
Whenever you make a split, it's always best to do 1 cell. And if you look at cells, you can almost tell when they're about ready to hatch. They get darker looking, they get a lighter shade at the end, they'll get thinner. Put the cell in and then go back and check it in 3 days. If you don't have a queen, or if you open the hive up and they're noisy, put another cell in there. That's the smartest thing to do. But I've seen many occasions where you put 2 cells in. I worked with a guy one time, he'd put 3, 4 cells in there. And sometimes they worked, and sometimes they was still queenless. have the same problem when I sell queens to old people that don't want to listen, and they like to put a nail through the candy to get the queen out quicker. The queen has to take 2 to 3 days to come out. If she doesn't, the pheromones ain't gone through that hive, and they'll ball up and kill her. Everybody's going to be real quiet tonight and not say a whole lot. Don't get yourself in hot water.
Yeah, I was really quiet earlier because the power went out and I lost my internet connection. You know, I was actually going through some of my old honey buckets. There's some crystallized honey on the bottom of them. These like chips off into these little cracker-like things. They're very good.
Yeah. You can get that crystallized honey back, you know, to a liquid if you want, or you can mix a little bit of water with it and you can get it to liquefy and then use it as bee feed.
Yeah. Usually when I want to liquefy it, I'll just set it inside of a hot car for a few days.
Yeah, that'll do it too. But if you bring the temperature up too much, you kill all the good enzymes that's in that honey too.
Yeah.
It's
That's
only
why I
good.
use like a hot car or something. It doesn't get too hot all that quick.
So Don, on your wooden ware there, you have all your students make up your woodware for you, or are you doing some of it yourself, or a combination of both?
Well, I teach new students how to build boxes. You know, we might build supers, you know, half a dozen supers one time, and then maybe feeders, you know, the next time. But as far as selling a lot of woodware, my son builds a lot of it and then sells it. But there's, you know, I teach how to do it, but there's not really any big money to be made in the woodenware. I
How
used
about
to make
frames?
frames, and
Yeah.
I don't even make frames. I buy them by the boxes now.
Yeah, I find it's easier to just buy the box and staple them together.
Yep. What
Now, do you
about you
glue?
get your frames?
You use any glue?
Nope, never glue a frame. You watch the video why you don't glue a frame? 2 reasons. Almost all glue has formaldehyde in it, and if you glue a frame and you bust that one side of your sidebar, you'll never get it apart to replace just that one piece. You might as well throw the whole frame away. And the sidebar is the weakest point of that frame, especially if you're not, you know, using your hive tool correctly. Most people just stick it on the top bar and fry it instead of sticking it right at the sidebar and breaking it loose there. If you're not bidding your hive, you know, enough, they'll propolize it so much you'll need a crowbar to get in there. If you look at the videos, you watch me, I'm pulling my frames apart with my fingers. I don't even use a hive tool most of the time. You glue yours, Larry?
I have been, yeah.
What kind of staple gun you using? 1/4 pound staple gun?
It's boy, I have to don't remember offhand right now. I have to go out and look there. I think it's 3/4 crown. Yeah.
That's a big staple for a frame. You must be using a narrow crown, 1/4 crown staple, at least 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches long.
Yeah, something like that. It's a small one.
Is it one that Harbor Freight sells?
No, I got it off, get them off of Amazon.
Oh, yeah, I bought guns off Amazon. But next time you go out there and put some frames together, just try one little experiment. Take 2 staples and shoot it down from the top through that top bar on each end, and then the bottom, on your bottom bar, shoot one through. And don't shoot it through the center. Shoot it off to the side a little bit. And then hold your hand straight out in front of you and try to pull that thing apart. You won't do it. And if you can't pull it apart, the bees won't do it.
So you don't staple in on your end bars either?
Underneath
Just to the top?
underneath the top bar?
Yeah.
I've done away with that 40 years ago. Believe me, you try 2 staples in the top, 1 in the bottom, and hold your hands out, just like this, and try to pull it apart. Not bend your elbows, but hold them straight out and pull it. I've had guys here that could be a wrestler. See, Cody's doing one. It's good and strong. Try it. You got nothing to lose. And by putting glue in the hive, you know, you're harming bees too. And it costs money too. Because if you want to use,
I admit I glued the ones that I use in the centrifuge.
Would you recommend gluing the boxes?
do what?
Would you recommend gluing the boxes?
I don't glue nothing.
Okay.
We get feedback from somebody. I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah, somebody is probably watching YouTube at the same time and watching the replay, and we're getting feedback through that. That's what happened last week.
Yeah, if you guys have headphones, it makes it a lot more clear for everybody. Just earbuds like this.
I find that muting my microphone when I'm not talking seems to help.
Yeah,
Well, if
we
you're not
still
using
get
the
your,
microphone,
we still
we
get your,
can't hear you.
we still get your speakers back into your mic though, Cody.
So are you guys still getting feedback when I've got it muted?
No.
Okay.
I see you got your bee shirt on. Cody's got his bee shirt. I
Yeah,
got
I thought it was be a good occasion to wear it.
Did you see my bee shirt? Turn the light. See what it says? I did a little thing about 3 weeks ago. I got a whole bunch of T-shirts, and my students buy them, and I wear them, advertise, and get them on YouTube and everything. So whenever someone's buying something for you, you know, you use it. Let me show you one that my student bought. This is 2 years ago. One of my students bought this. You see if you can see it. Let's see.
That's nice.
That is a
there
nice.
you go.
It's a nice warm hoodie. I've got clothes from a lot of different people, coffee mugs, all kinds of goodies. Cheap advertising. Fat Beeman get you on YouTube and put it up there.
If I ever have shirts made, and they're gonna say, "If you see me running, you should be too."
Yeah.
Well, I have one that says I'm a professional beekeeper. If you see me running, try to keep up.
I've
I
got.
have. I'll make a comment on the T-shirts.
Okay.
Instead, I have one shirt. It says "Keeper of the Bees," not a beekeeper. I'm the keeper of the bees.
That's what
And
happens to a lot of us. Well, Malcolm must have made it in.
Yes, I finally got in here. I'm glad y'all didn't give up on me.
I sent you several invites.
They kept coming up error every time. I don't know what it was. This last one that David sent me, it put me in here.
Okay. Well, David's been straightening me out here for a long time. He gets me all fixed up here, and then the computer starts messing up again. I'm not a whiz on a computer. Never claimed to be.
Well, I'll catch up on this thing. I'll watch it on YouTube tonight. See what all y'all discussed while I was in here.
We didn't talk about you.
It wouldn't be much to say.
Well, I mean, we learn a little something from each person that comes in here.
Now,
I'm surprised Jason didn't get in tonight.
Les was trying to get in also.
I tried to get an invite out to everybody. If you're not getting an invite on a regular basis, go to Google Hangouts and add me as a contact. And then when I click on it, I put you in the group there. When I send an invitation out to the whole group, then everybody gets one at the same time.
Right, I've got you there. I used to get them. I don't know what happened. Well, let me not waste too much more of your time. I've got a question for you now that I understand what you're doing with your nukes. Are you treating your bees, or are you using your bees treatment-free?
I'm doing as much treatment-free that I can, but you got to understand, I'm teaching here. So when I get a beekeeper comes in here and he says, I want to learn to do oxalic acid, or I want to do fogging, I want to use mineral oil, I don't want to use chemical, what's the alternative? I'm going to show you a lot of different ways to treat your bees. Now, I leave that up to the beekeeper himself. All I'm is the messenger of information. You just decide what you want to do. There's people that claim they do absolutely no treatment, but sometimes they must be lying because they keep buying bees. Bees are going to have to be treated with something.
I know I tried to do the minimal treatment and I lost most of my bees. So
Well, there you go.
Well, now on these nukes, you know, if you are going to treat these nukes, how are you treating them for mites? Because you think, I understand if you get these things split, that you're breaking the cycle.
Right.
But sometimes when you're adding brood, you've already got some mites in there and trying to keep them from building up. So at the end of the year, when you're getting ready to get your nukes ready for the winter, do you do any kind of treating then, or are you just treatment free? And if you aren't treating them, how would you treat them for the winter?
Well, right now we just mixed up tea tree oil, wintergreen, and we also used wintergreen, a little bit of lemongrass, and I'm using it as a spring really build up fast. We're in a honey flow right now, so you can take sugar water and set it out there, and the bees are not really wanting to take it. But you put lemongrass in there and wintergreen, they're going to tear it up. So the more they eat, the faster they build comb. So that's what I'm trying to do, is build numbers fast. But, getting back to...
when you're building up a hive, do you feed them a pollen substitute, or you just give them sugar water?
Just sugar water. Look at the front of your hive. If bees are bringing pollen in, there's no need to feed a supplement. If you're feeding a supplement, a lot of it contains yeast. And if you start putting that in a hive, the first thing you're going to have is a lot of beetles. And if you're doing a patty with honey or sugar mixed up with the pollen substitute, you have to mix a small enough patty the size of a golf ball and set it on the top bars, and they have to consume it in about 3 days. And then you have to give them a break for 2 to 3 days. If they take longer than 3 days, you're setting a buffet up for all the beetles in the neighborhood, because they can smell that yeast. So my philosophy is, if they're bringing natural pollen in, I'm not going to mess with it. They bring enough in themselves.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
I took all my hives and made queenless nukes out of all of them. Took the queens out so I could break the cycle in my hives. Now on my nukes with the queen in them, that's what I'm doing. I used your recipe from YouTube, and I'm putting the winter mint and the spearmint and lemongrass oil and a little bit of tea tree oil, and that's what I'm feeding them, so that'll get into their bellies, and they'll be feeding that to the young, trying to use that as a mite control on my little nukes that I just made. Other words.
Right. That's one of the reasons right now we're making a lot of splits, and I'm making 1 frame or 2 frame splits, and we're feeding tea tree oil to keep the dysentery down. And I'm running, if you look at the videos, I'm running a lot of hive. I'm running over 250 under a pine thicket. And everybody will tell you, a pine thicket, you're going to have a lot of beetles. With one exception, you're going to have a strong hive if it's in a pine thicket, or you'll have beetles. Now, I haven't figured out how to have a strong 5-frame nuke with 1 frame in there yet, but yet I'm not ate up with beetles. And we haven't even treated for beetles with boric acid this year. I don't treat nothing unless I see a problem. There's no point in putting a lot of stuff in that hive unless you have a problem in there. Now, Cody, if you want to get away from all treatments, just replacing all your foundation every 2 years or every 3 years, that gets rid of a lot of chemical in the hive, and then you'll have healthier bees. Also, making the majority of splits you can, you're breaking that mite cycle.
Okay. I've been doing a lot of foundationless frames, so that should be pretty easy.
Well, the foundationless frames are okay if you got 2 frames that's already drawn out and you put that frame between it. But if you do all frames top foundationless, you're going to get a bunch of wavy comb, crisscross, bridging, and everything else. Right now, I'm not even using full sheets. I'm using a 2-inch starter strip, and I'm dropping that in. And if you look at the bees, in 2 days, 3 days, they've got to draw it down 5-6 inches. And you go in that hive, wherever you see that new comb, that's where you're going to find that queen. She'll prefer that new comb way over old comb.
Okay. When I've used a 2-inch starter strip,
Right.
I usually get the bees will build that out with the normal comb, and then I'll have drone comb underneath of it. Can you tell me why that is?
If you got that much drone comb, you either got an inferior queen or they've got a hive that's overpopulated and they're getting ready to swarm. Bees only produce drones when they're getting ready to swarm. That's the only purpose for them drones. Or unless you've got a little comb and it's stretched out. Now, if you're in hot weather, the 2 inches or 3 inches at top, if it gets hot out there and you don't have enough bees and enough ventilation, that comb will stretch and it'll come down and elongate, and then all they'll put in there is honey or drones.
Okay.
I've got a question on your ventilation hole that you were putting in the backside of your nukes.
Okay.
All right, are you using that as the same size as the entrance hole and just putting a screen over it, or are you making it smaller?
I'm using about a 1-inch hole under the handhold in all the supers, and if I'm using deeps as high bodies, I'm doing that too. You can't have too much ventilation.
Oh,
now,
okay,
if you're using hive top feeders, another thing you can do is drill a 3/4 or a 1-inch hole in the back of the feeder and put screen over it on the inside. That gives you good airflow through there. If you put the screen on the outside, you're going to end up catching your fingers on it when you lift up that feeder.
Yeah, that's probably true. Thank you for that. Now, I've got a question, because next year I'm planning on getting some queens from different places to add to my apiary to add some genetic diversity, and you're on that list of people I'm going to buy from.
Okay.
But now, I understand how to introduce a queen to a full-size hive, and I understand, putting the queen cell with limited resources. Now, when I'm starting a small nuke with limited resources, how few of resources do I need to add to a nuke when I add a queen? I mean, it might sound like a silly question. Is it the same as a queen cell, or what? Because
Well, on a queen cell, I use only a frame of honey, and I use about a cup to 2 cups of bees, and put a screen over the opening. And I'm using a 3/4 hole in the front, and I'll screen them off for a couple days. Now, if you're adding a queen, which is a mated queen, you can put 2 to 3 frames of hatching brood in there. That'll really boost it up. But a queen cell, there's no need to risk all them bees, because if the queen doesn't come back, you've lost a bunch of bees. That help you out?
yeah, I just wanted to know what was the least amount of resources you'd put in with the queen. I understand the more you put in there, the more brood you put in there, the bigger it's going to be and faster it's going to grow.
If you have a sealed frame of brood, you're looking at 2 to 3 pounds of bees when they hatch. So if you got a 5-frame nuke and you put 2 frames in there, you're going to end up having a lot of bees in there. So you're going to have to put something else on it. Another super. That answer that?
Yeah, yes, sir, you did. Thank you very much.
Your best bet is, especially where you live, where you still got cold nights, is to do it in a 5-frame box until you get your weather stabilized. Because bees are going to build up much better in a 5-frame box because of heat loss. They can control the heat a lot better than they can in a 10-frame or an 8-frame box.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you about the best way to introduce a virgin queen to a nuke.
Well, I actually done one today. There's a lot of different ways. I had one that hatched out almost in front of me, and she just came out of the cell, wasn't even a minute. I laid her on a bottom board, and I shook 3 frames of bees on top of her, and I watched the bees climb all around on her. They never balled her up. She walked into the nuke on her own, no problem. But now I have gone in a hive and got a virgin queen that hadn't got good coloration yet. When it just comes out of the cell, they seem to be less colorful. The color definition is not definite. It's not strong. It's more lighter shade. I put those in a queen cage and shook a bunch of bees in there and released them the very next day and not had a problem. But you can, if it's within, say, an hour or two of hatching, I have put them in my hand and just hold them up to the entrance and let them walk on in there. A virgin queen doesn't have a lot of smell to her, not a lot of pheromones yet.
I want to try that now.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of things to try and do. That's why we're here to exchange ideas. I mean, what works for me should work for you.
So on my video I made of making queens that I had last year, I've gotten some people commenting that I started too early. When do you think I should start making the queens? Like, this year I haven't even started yet because the bees aren't building up strong enough. But last year I did it around March. Is that way too early?
Well, everywhere is going to be different. You need at least 55 to 58 as your low, and it needs to be consistent for about a week. You need pollen coming in, so whatever is your early pollen coming in, you need a good supply of that, at least 3 to 5 days of that coming in. Those are the 2 main things. As far as being early, the next thing you need to look at is you got to have drones. If you see drones today that's hatching, they're not going to do no mating for 3 weeks. So you've got to have mature drones in order to get good mating. And if you don't have enough drones out there, you're not going to get good mating, or you're not going to get good genetics. One hive, you're running the risk of a lot of inbreeding. That's why it's best to have at least 2 hives and buy stock from different people. I run a lot of hives here. I buy stock from other people too, because I don't want to get inbreeding. And if you have hives out there that you get inbreeding, the first good indication is they're kind of mean all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
So an inbreeded hive will be meaner?
It's more aggressive. If you got a hive
That would
that's,
explain why one of my hives was really mean last year.
well, I mean, if
I
someone
had one
says,
hive that, what?
if somebody is on an island and they got just 2 hives there, usually within 3 days or 3 years, they're not going to be able to work them hives because they have no outside genetics. The hive consists of drones and females. So basically brother and sisters mating. So usually 3rd, 4th generation, they start getting real ill.
Yeah, I actually kind of do live on an island here. I'm about 9 miles from my nearest neighbor. I think this year I'll probably have to take the bees like into town in order to mate them because I've only got the 2 hives.
Well, I mean, that's one option.
Is there wild bees around where you live?
No, I've
There gotta be wild
done
bees.
like
There's
some
always bees
beelining and
out in the
stuff. It looks like
wild.
I'm the bees in the area. What was that? What was that? I didn't hear you. But I doubt that the bees would last very long in the wild out here anyway because of the mites. I mean, out of my 12 hives last year, I had 2 that survived. So, you know, I doubt that if they had, you know, just living in a tree, they would have lasted very long.
Well, I'm on the Arkansas River here outside of Tulsa, and I've got 3 feral colonies that I know of that are over 12 years old. I'm sure they've been swarming and going different places, so I'm sure I've got some genetics that I want in my queens. I've tried to trap out 2 of these things out of a tree, and I guess they got different exits somewhere up in the tree. Haven't been able to get them out, so I'm thinking they're doing just fine right where they're at. So, and I'm sure they're breeding with my queens. But I have a question. I had, when I made my hives queenless and let them make their own cells, one of my hives, my best hive, I watched a small swarm come out of it, and so I was getting ready to catch it, but I didn't have to. They went right into an empty hive body that I had. And so I'm thinking, okay, now I've heard of this. I've never seen it. And I just let them stay in there, and they stayed. And I checked them about 2 weeks later, and she's laying eggs in there, and they've already got some cat brood. I'm sure will be in there next. But when I went to the mother hive, I don't have a queen. It's queenless. It's like as if she decided, all right, I mated, but I don't like this hive and left with part of them. Have you ever heard of that happening?
Well, that'll happen if you've had, you know, like 5 to 10 days in a row of a lot of rain or real cool weather. If the queen can't get out to mate in so many days, the longer it takes for her to get mated, the less likely she's going to be a good queen.
You know, I've actually seen what you were describing. I had a little mating nuke, and all the bees just up and, like, about half the bees just left with the queen. And they went and landed on a tree branch, and I went and caught them again, but they didn't seem to like that little nuke I had them in, so I put them in a larger box, and there they stayed. So maybe it's just they were wanting to change locations.
Yeah,
They overgrew the box is what they did.
well, this one had plenty of space because I'm 3 deep and have about 4 supers on it, and they've got it full of honey. There's a limited space to lay, but I got to get in. So last week I went in there and made another queen hive. Took the queen out, made another nuke out of another hive, so that I'll get some cells, and I'll be off to Monday, and I'm planning on going in there and putting a frame of with some cells back in that hive. But they've been queenless apparently for about a month now, and I had another hive that's been queenless for a month. I thought they had a queen, couldn't find a queen in there, couldn't find any eggs, and that hive was mostly drones. So I just took that hive and just combined it with a couple of other hives.
If you're going more than about 2 weeks and you're not seeing no eggs, you need to add another frame of fresh eggs, larvae from another hive, because if you don't get a queen within 3-4 weeks, you're going to have a drone layer in there. You're going to have laying workers, and if you've got laying workers, it's kind of hard to get rid of them. So you're going to have to do some drastic work to get rid of it.
How do you get rid of a drone laying hive?
Well, one way people say is to take all the bees out, 100 yards and shake them, let the bees fly back. But, those people don't do it for a living. And if a laying worker's out there, that laying worker can fly just about as good as a non-laying worker. The best thing to do, I found, is just get a good queen, a laying queen, put her in the hive, and leave her corked up for 3 to 4 days. And then take the cork out of the candy end and let them come out naturally. The bees, they'll write themselves up because they know that laying worker is not going to be, keep that hive going. And they'll actually get rid of the laying workers.
They will prefer the new queen to the drone laying worker. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I
Sounds good.
have something that one of my friends did. I make all these different gadgets. And I made a queen introducer frame. I imagine you can buy them. I think Brushy Mountain has them. You insert the queen cage in it, and the queen will run in, and there's more exposure for her pheromones, and you release her when you want to. Well, anyway, he did that, and he waited, and he released the queen. She went down. They accepted her. He did not take out this queen introducing frame, which replaces the frame, and it's only maybe 2 inches, from the top down. And he left it in there, and he called me up. He said they drawed a whole frame of comb. What am I going to do? I told him, I said, now you got a homemade frame.
There you go. About all you can do when that happens is just set it out into a box and let them rob it out and melt the wax back down.
Well, he had eggs on it. He said the queen already laid eggs on it. So I told him, just leave it in there, wait until, the eggs hatch, and then take it out.
Well, they're going to just keep, when you got eggs in it, once they hatch, the queen's going to come right back in and lay again in it. So what you have to do is take that out and add it to one of your nukes that you're trying to build. And let it hatch out there. And hopefully you work it out. Sometimes you have to sacrifice brood to get things straightened around. Just like
I'll have to tell him that. Thank you.
Hey, I've got a question.
If
you put a queen with, so if you're like doing a trap out, you're getting all of the bees that are the older foraging bees. Can you put a queen with those bees and have them make a colony, or do you need have the younger nurse bees as well?
No, if you got a mated queen and you're doing a trap out, the bees that you trap out, as long as you've got a good queen, they'll accept her and they'll start, building a hive. But I thought you was going to ask about taking a queen and trying to do a trap out and get all the bees to come out. They won't do that. The queen's going to be the last one out. I had a fella wanted a queen here last week or 10 days ago. and he's got a tree that's blooming, and he said it's like a swarm of bees all over. They're pollinating the tree. He wanted a queen. He's going to put the queen itself in a box, and he thought the bees was going to come down and join that queen, and he'd have a beehive. It don't work that way.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine that was thinking that too.
You can
But
learn
if you're like trapping the bees out of like a wall or something, all those bees are basically the forager bees. So if you put those with it, they're going to make draw comb and stuff.
Well, they'll
Or
make
they
comb.
need the.
You know, they make comb. I mean, the nurse bees are not going to come out. The only way you can get a trap out is you can get a long hose and you can put some bee go in there, and hopefully you can run them out that way.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing I was asking, is if you're doing a trap out, you're not going to get the younger bees, and I was wondering if you need those or if you could make a hive with the ones that come out.
The queen's going to stay in that box until the hive is destroyed. So she's going to stay in, and if there's not that many bees, you're always having bees hatching out, so you got replacements for the ones that don't come back.
Now, coding, they've got a thing over Kelly Bees that's made for trapping out, that once you set this little square into the hole where the queens, where the hive's at, you seal it off. There's a brace they put on it, and they have a nuke that slides right on that. And what happens is the bees will have to go through this nuke to get to the other hive. And there's I haven't read everything on it, but I think you put some other comb in there and stuff, maybe some brood, and they go in there and they're like, hey, something's going on. There's some places for you to lay over here, and they say that the queen will actually come out to lay in that other comb, and sometimes you can catch her in that nuke box, but sometimes she'll go back in, which is okay, because if she lays in that nuke box, what you've gotten is the genetics from her that you can take to your apiary.
So basically, you've added a box onto the hive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Warren Bond. Brushy Mountains came out with a swarm bandit, they call it. When the hive goes to swarm, you insert it in the front, and the bees can get out, but there's a queen excluder on it, and the queen is trapped inside. There's no frames in it, though. And what you do, you take this gadget from the front of the hive, and you insert it into a new hive, and they say the queen will go into the new hive. You put a frame of comb in there, and all the other bees will forward just like on a swarm. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't think that there would actually work, because the virgin queen is going to be small, almost the size, especially 4.9 bees are going to have a small queen to start with. She'll pass right through a queen excluder. And if you use a queen excluder on 4.9 bees, when the queen starts to lay, she'll start to get through a queen excluder and she'll jerk her head off trying to back out.
Now, I thought when you get a swarm, the virgin queen or the old queen leaves the hive. Am I correct? I know she loses weight prior to swarming.
Not necessarily. I've got a video back here where we've got almost 30 queens out of one swarm, out of a big 8-frame double deep. Now, we counted them and caged each one in a separate cage. So if that was true, I would only have found one queen, not all them virgin queens.
That was all in one swarm you got?
Well, we get swarms here all the time, but a swarm itself does not always contain just one queen. It'll always contain 2 or more, because that's just nature's way to reproduce in case something happens to one queen. And there could be, like I said, I caught 30 queens in one swarm. They're not fighting until they get into a hive. And when they take possession of a hive or a box or a tree, then they start to fight it out. The strongest one, hopefully, is going to win.
Don't they, whenever the first queen hatches in the hive, though, I thought she gets rid of the other queens prior to leaving.
Not necessarily. I've had students here that, have seen the mother and two daughters walking on the exact same frame. There's a lot of things people pass on down through generations that's got a lot of bogus to it. What I do is every day, daylight to dark, so I see a lot of things that people say don't happen that do happen.
Well, I just
already had a marked queen and virgin queen, which was her daughter. I seen them together already. But what I'm saying is, you're saying there's 30 in one swarm. I enlighten me how there could be 30 virgin queens in one swarm.
If you have a frame and it's a good producing hive, a double deep, you have you've got 8 frames in the bottom and 8 on the top, and you've got at least 12 to 14 frames that could have cells on. And if they're all hatching out within an hour to 3 hours of each other, they're coming out the same time.
Okay.
I just read Langstroth's book that he wrote in 1893, and he was talking about swarms, and his conclusion was that most of the swarms that he caught had an average of 3 to 4 virgins with the old queen. And his conclusion was, from watching these and investigating some of the hives that he saw where they went when he followed a couple of swarms, he found that the original queen would go and get started and start laying, getting this hive going, while her daughters would go out and mate. And they would take more than one just in case something happened, because these bees are smart enough to realize that the mother queen is old, and she's not really what they want to start a new hive with, but she's producing eggs. So she leaves and helps get the new hive started, and the virgins go out and mate, and they send more than one to go out and mate just in case something happens to them and they don't make it back. And then if a couple of them make it back, then they fight it out, and whoever wins usually takes over the hive. And he says that he's actually seen the workers kill the old queen or sometimes push her out. And that's what Langstroth said in 1893. Did that make sense?
I've seen a lot of it. I mean, I've been doing bees for a long time. I've seen bees push a old queen out or a damaged queen. I've seen one that had a short wing on one side or got crippled, might have fell off a frame, got damaged or something, and actually pushed them out. But no, nothing surprised me in beekeeping, because they've been around a long time, and no matter who writes books and what anybody says, bees always come out on top. They figure things out.
Well, I've got a question for you, Don, because every year our temperatures always change. Something fluctuates. Now, and I know you don't have an exact calendar, and my area is different from your area. But come the end of the year, what signs do you start looking for that you decide that this is the time to put everything in a nuke box for the winter?
I start myself in September here. Goldenrod is usually going pretty good. It runs sometimes into late October up into November. So I take my strong hives, 8 frame, and I'll bust them down, make 2 to 3 nukes out of them. Some I make 4 nukes out. 4, the law of averages is going to go through the winter better than 1. I got 4 queens. The average is a lot better. And I run 5 frame nukes through the winter. They got heat consumption there that's a lot less than a big hive, so they keep the queen warm, they keep the brood warm, less resources lost. The bigger the hive, the more honey they have to eat to keep it warm, and they have to maintain a certain temperature year-round in that hive.
Hey, Don. About that, what do you think of the idea of actually putting a thermostat in the hive and an electrical heater? and making sure it doesn't drop down below 40 degrees. That'd be a bad idea.
Well, there's a lot of people do a lot of things in beekeeping. I talked to a fellow several years ago in Canada, and he took all his hives in his basement, or he called it his root cellar. And he said he overwintered a lot better there. But, you know, everybody is going to do something different. If whatever you're doing, if it's working, keep doing it. You know, the things that I've learned is a lot of my mistakes, what works and what don't work. You know, no one sit down and says, do this and do that, and then you're going to have this result. It don't happen that way. Because you can be across the state, across the county, and your situation is going to be totally different than someone else's. But as far as starting nukes and stuff out, I look for pollen coming in. I look for the temperature to be stable. I look for drones that are old enough. And in the fall, and I start looking, you know, for the goldenrod. That's when I start breaking stuff down.
Okay, let's get back to the end of the year there. When you start your winter nukes, you're starting with queens, not queen cells.
Queen cells. Queen
You're
cells.
using queen cells in September? Okay. That's what I was going to ask.
I sell queens. I don't sell the cells. So I'm making cells all the time. If they're making cells, I'm using them. I'm not going to cut them out and throw them on the ground. There was a fella here last week. He bought some queens, and he cut out about 12 nice cells on the bottom of his frame because his buddy said those are swarm cells. They're getting ready to swarm. So he just cut them all off and threw them on the ground. I said, you just threw over $200 on the ground.
Okay. Now, introducing new queens to your apiary, do you think it's better to do it and overwinter them, or do you think you should get them started in the middle of the summer or in the spring?
Well, I bought them both times. The thing to do is you got to get them in and get them laying so that you have some of that genetics to go through the winter. So do them to where you're going to have the best return on your money. You know, we got bees that are laying, I mean, just about anywhere you live, bees, the queen is laying almost 12 months of the year. People don't want to hear that. They say it shuts down. That queen is laying eggs enough to replace herself all year long. And there's people out there that argue with you.
Yeah, they do. I've seen it.
Oh, that's not true. They regulate down a little bit, but they don't shut down.
All right. So if I start my winter nukes at the end of July, and I want to order some queens from you, how long does, I know you, the way you do it is you don't use credit cards or anything, so you wait for the checks to clear the bank.
Right.
So with your bank, how long does that usually take?
Usually when I get a personal check, we ship the queens out usually the third to fourth day. Now, if you send a money order, postal money order, so we get the check or the money order, we ship them out that afternoon. And we got to get them to the post office that day by 3:30.
Okay. Well, that, and then usually you send it just priority mail, no overnight. And how long you think that would take to get something towards Tulsa or Dallas? Be about the same distance from you.
2 to 3 days usually. We've shipped them overnight, and you pay extra for overnight. And if they don't get them there overnight, they usually pay you for the postage. But we've shipped them priority, and they usually get there just about the same time as what overnight does.
All right. And you insure them, the bees, right?
Insured. Everything gets insured when it goes out, because if the post office leaves them in a hot truck and they go out and have lunch and they forget about it, they come back, everything's cooked, you don't want to hear about it.
Do you take PayPal, Bone?
I do PayPal if you're going to, you know, if it's an emergency where you need a queen and you pay the percentage. The PayPal was set up basically as a donate for my videos I do on YouTube. I ask people to make a donation if they enjoy the video or if they're learning something. And, you know, they pay a percentage when it comes to me. PayPal takes their percentage out.
Don, you sent my queens on Monday, and I got them on Wednesday. But I'm in Missouri. I have a question for you, though. I was talking to a friend, and he said he tried cutting cells like you do, and he had problems when he introduced the cells into a queenless hive that they would chew them up and kill them quite a bit. Do you have any comments about that?
When you put a cell in a hive, the only way they're going to chew it up is you've got a virgin queen or another queen in that hive. If that hive is truly queenless, they'll accept it. Now, the second way they're going to cut it down is people don't understand how to put a cell in a box, and they squash it or they damage it or they doing something as they cut it out. You've got to remember one thing. Cutting cells is the easiest thing. And if you can't do that, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that can't cut a cell out and put it in without having failure. You've got to have a touch. Best thing to do is cut a plug out an inch wider than the cell all the way around. That way you have enough to hold it to the frame or hold it to the sidewall of your nuke box.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
But if it's on plastic, you're not going to do it.
You can't cut it, but you can put a shell against plastic that's drawn out. Why in the world would somebody want plastic?
Get
Other
rid
than
of it.
1,000 hives, and it's maybe quicker, but you know, I mean, once the bees chew that wax off, they don't want to build on it again.
Now, I bought some plastic ones, but for only one purpose. I bought some PF 100s from Man Lake because they're 4.9. Because I've been regressing my bees, and I want to make them make 4.9, and for a couple of generations, and then I've been putting Foundationless in between those and pulling those plastic ones out. I've been using them to with the regression program, but I don't plan on keeping them because I want to be nothing but Foundationless. Now, I have a question about your queens. Now, I haven't looked on your website. Now, some places are selling like, oh, this is an Italian, this is a Carnolan, but yours are you just basically selling a mixture of bees? What your Mite queens?
Mine are honeybees. They're gentle, they make honey, they overwinter. Now, I don't brag what else they do. Customers that's got my bees, they'll say more than what I would. I'm not a big on building up my bees. Bees are bees, and I found that mixing genetics seemed to work the best for me.
Oh, I agree with you. I think I call them mutt bees. When you mix the genetics, you're getting a little of everything and let nature take over. That's best survivor that way. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, I've sold bees, queens for many, many years, and I'm probably smeared all over the YouTube, everywhere, and not very many people will say negative things about my bees. They'll put pictures up where they're working the bees with no bee suit with their children out there working. So to me, that's advertising enough. I don't need to say more about the bees.
How far do you ship them?
Producing fast enough.
How far away do you ship them?
I've shipped them all over the continental U.S. I don't have permits to ship into Canada, but people can come down here and purchase them and take them back. Paul is planning on doing that. He does my DVDs. So he's taking them back to Canada, and he's selling them for $60 a piece. I've held the price on my queens at $25 for quite a few years. Now I've got one of my students in South Georgia. He's selling his queens. He's got them caged for you at $35. You come to his bee yard, watch him pull it. You can see the brood pattern. You can see the color of the queen before he cages it. He gets $50 for that. That's basically a proven queen, and he can't keep up.
That's amazing.
I'd much rather buy one of those like that myself, yeah.
They sell.
Well, Don, I want to thank you for your information tonight. I appreciate every bit of your knowledge that you've
I
shared.
hope it helps everybody out a little bit, and pass on the word. If
I'm
nobody
gonna
else got any questions, I'm going to head out.
Yeah, thank you for everything that you do, Don. I mean, it's definitely a great help, especially for the new beekeepers like myself.
Well, I'm here to help as much as I possibly can. If I can steer you down the right path, that's good. And you can hear what other people said about the bees that they get from me. We ship them out as quick as we get the orders, and we don't have problems with the shipping of them. So if you're ready for them, just give me a holler. All right, I'm heading out tonight. Everybody have a good evening.
Okay, Don. Have a good,
All
good
right.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Don. See you next
Night, Don.
Saturday.
Okay, we'll see you.